Happy Sunday! Welcome to the Scoop World Order. First weekend of officials is in the books. The kids are getting out of here. What intel do we have? Who looks like they're about to commit? And how did we do with a bunch of the 5 stars? We're going to break all that down and take your questions as well. Happy Sunday. I hope you guys had a great Sunday. Beautiful day in Columbus again. So I hope you guys got outside. If you guys are wherever you guys are nationally, I hope you guys are able to enjoy your Sunday. If you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that alert bell. Again, this show has been on a tear. We had an incredible month last month. Thank you so much for all of your support. As always, continue to spread the word. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. Leave us reviews. It's super easy to do, super quick. And I appreciate all of you guys that do that because it helps us in a very tremendous way. And we're very grateful for that. So with that being said, got to get right into the details with Nevadabuck. Nevada, this is it's always an interesting time when the kids are leaving official visits because everyone enjoys official visits because it's basically like a 3-day vacation, where you get to go eat and get, concierge service everywhere you go. And it's fun. And you meet all the guys and the coaches and they all love you. And it's a big love affair. So what can we glean out of this first weekend? There's some big time guys that were here, some 5-star guys. There's a kid looks like he's about to commit. Per Funky, who is the top recruiting expert in the Ohio State space now. He's on BuckeyeScoop.com. Kills it with inside information. The best in the game right now. But what can you glean from this first weekend?
Well, look, Ohio State knows how to do these recruiting visits. They do the recruiting visit as well as anybody. They certainly have got it dialed in, got it down to a science. And what I look for first of all on this is, were there any mistakes made? Were there any screw ups? Were there any bad, people that had a bad visit, people that didn't feel like they got enough time, um, logistics that didn't get pulled off right, travel difficulties? And the answer is no. The weekend came off flawlessly from that standpoint. So from an operational standpoint, give Ohio State the A+, and that's a good start. Second thing I look for is, was anybody not buying what we're selling? And you can tell that too. And you talk to the people, the players that are with them, the other parents that are there of committed kids, the people around the program. The coaches have an idea. If a kid's just kind of there checking the box, clout chasing by going to Ohio State on an official visit or using it to drive somebody up on NIL. And honestly, they didn't get that impression from anybody this weekend. And so those are two really good first steps. Is there were no unforced errors, and there was nobody that was there that wasn't listening, that wasn't attentive. They're in some dogfights for sure. I mean, Xavier Griffin, is going to be a battle, to the end for you to get a linebacker out of Georgia like that. Is it Alabama? Where's he going to go? He's a kid that is it was looking at USC and now kind of back on the thing. So you're really not sure where his head's at. Savion Hyder is another kid who plays it. He's a little bit quiet, a little bit like Travion, to be honest with you. A little bit quiet, not as expressive, but was really giving buying signals to Ohio State on the way. Felix Ojo, you're gonna have, that's gonna be a battle with Texas, obviously. So for my money, I think there's 11 or 12 big time kids in this weekend. The kids I feel like they made the biggest inroads with were Mark Sutter, the tight end, um, who I think they would. Yeah, I think he wants to commit. I think he's a kid that they'd like to have in the fold, but he's kind of caught up in a little bit of a numbers game right now because I'm not sure how many tight ends Ohio State's going to really be able to take in this class and with is currently configured on the roster. Secondly was Aaron Thomas, the big offensive tackle, yeah, a young, inexperienced guy, only been playing 1 year, 3-star tackle. But a lot of people feel like this kid's just got enormous potential. Dad was an NFL player, so Charles Bentley speaks really, really highly of him, and probably the kid that would be first in line to commit. It's going to be a timing thing there with Ohio State and with what he wants to do. But I think all things being equal right now, I think Aaron Thomas is ready to go, and that's one that we're gonna be keeping a really, really close eye. And the third one would be Luke Waffle, the great defensive end out of New Jersey. His brother just went to Penn State. A lot of people feel like Penn State's the chalk. Ohio State did not get that impression this weekend with Luke Waffle. They really feel like this is a kid that really wants to be a Buckeye. Really hit it off with Matt Patricia. Really hit it off with Larry Johnson. Really hit it off with the entire defensive staff, and really an Ohio State kind of kid, a kid that would really fit in well here with the Buckeyes. And so that's kind of how I have it configured in terms of the kids that are most interested, kids that are most likely to commit in the short, kids that are most likely to commit in the long term. And Ohio State moved the ball with all of them. So great weekend from that standpoint. I would expect to see some movement with Thomas sooner than later. That one could heat up really carefully, and certainly something to keep an eye on. Felix Ojo is going to be on the Scoop Network this week, I believe, with the Buckeye boys. I'm not sure what night it's going to be, but I don't know what he's going to say. Some people have asked, they're like, we're going to have Felix Ojo on the show. What is he going to say? And I'm like, I have no idea. So get those questions ready. I think he's willing to answer the tough questions, any and all that people want to know. Coming on the Buckeye boys, never a bad sign. So but they may have several of the commitments or potential commitments on the show this week. So chance to kind of dial in, and you guys can play recruiting coordinator for the day, where you look, listen to what they have to say, see how they're answering, and see whether or not you feel like these guys fit in well with the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah, and you guys have a chance to potentially ask him a question if you guys want to send a super chat. If you have a question for Felix Ojo, which again, I think he's got a lot of talent and he's the best tackle in the country. But Aaron Thomas is really an intriguing kid. You look at his offers and you'd never know that he's pretty new to playing football, given the fact he has the two big dogs. He has Ohio State and Texas. Those are the two best offers you can get, in my opinion, right now in college football. If he added Georgia, but I mean, he's got A&M. This isn't like it's Ohio State versus a bunch of mid majors. This is a big dog fight, and he's a 4-star kid. I'm gonna click his tape on it real quick, but I like his upside. I was watching him a little bit, and he's tall. And I know that sounds silly, but like when you're looking for tackles, I mean, 6'7", 6'8" is something that you're looking for, and he's working with LaCharles, and LaCharles thinks very highly of him, which is important. And he happens to live close to LaCharles' training facility in Arizona. So he's been working with him. So again, when you're trying to get your pass protection tuned up, you're a 6'8" kid who's got NFL potential to play tackle, it really comes down to how well can you pass block. So he's been putting in a lot of work. And again, I don't mind a kid like this, because I like kids that are like this, that are kind of raw. They're kind of they got a lot of upside. Again, I know that there's that thing, finished product versus upside, but I think that with a kid like this, you can kind of project out how strong he's going to get. And again, you get to know his mentality a little bit, because that's important when you're a young, thinner kid, taller kid. You're going to lose a lot early on at Ohio State, but eventually you just have to lose less, and you have to get stronger, and you have to just own the weight room. It's like I tell these guys, like, don't be allergic to the iron, especially when you're if for any position on the field is easier when you're stronger, but offensive line is like 10 times easier when you're stronger. If you're a guy that's not very strong, it's going to be tough to dominate in the trenches, because it's just it's a man's game up there, And as I got stronger throughout my career physically, that's from hundreds of hours in the weight room, in the off season. It makes it a lot easier to play really well, because you can stymie guys, you can move guys. Your punch is better. Your ability to anchor on a bull rush is better. It's like it all kind of compounds as you develop and you become a heavy squatter, heavy hang clean guy, a heavy bencher. You kind of round your numbers out and grow them. Because a lot of the best guys I played with were really strong. Like Nick Mangold was exceptionally strong in the weight room. Lower body wise, upper body not really a huge bencher, but he's a huge squatter. Good power clean guy. And I think that you get these taller guys that embrace it. They turn into monsters. And one of the guys who's a prototype for embracing the weight room is Tristan Wirfs, who's the highest paid left tackle in the NFL, and he was from Iowa. And all the Browns folks know that we took Jedrick Wills, who's currently he's through his rookie deal and he's on the breadline. He's literally unsigned after a 4-year rookie contract where he played left tackle in the league, and he was so bad that nobody has signed him yet. So. Or at least not at a number that he wants to play for. But Tristan Wirfs is on the table, and Tristan is a guy that's a big power clean guy, hang clean guy, and that's what you can get with some of these bigger, more angular guys, because they get power angles in their knees, in their hips, and they can stop guys and redirect. And arm length is something that people don't talk enough about when you're pass protecting, but it's kind of like, you guys have seen medieval movies or maybe Game of Thrones and the scene where the mountain is jousting with the knight, and then the my guy the hound comes out of the stands and saves the knight from getting killed and whatever. But like it's kind of like jousting when you talk about the arm length, because if you have a longer lever than the defensive end you're going against, then you're going to get to touch him first and deflect him and keep him away. Whereas if it's the opposite and the D end can outreach you, it makes it tough. That's why arm length is important. But this kid's got great tape. Obviously, I got him on right now. He's still raw, but he's big and he can move. And that's all that at this point in his life, that's all I really care about. Because you can make him stronger, you can make him a better player. But the kid's been coached. This is obviously a good program. He's worked with LaCharles, which I'm sure he's, when you see him, this season is probably going to look 10 times better. But I'm excited for this kid. Again, he's, you look at him and you watch him move and you watch his feet, and how easy and relaxed he is in pass protection. And again, I don't think he's going against world beaters over here, but he's locking them down, and that's what you got to do when you're playing against lesser talent. Nevada, anything to add to that? Because I tell people, I know people don't want to hear me when I say that every offensive lineman is a project. So people are like, oh, we don't want to take any project offensive linemen. I'm cool. Outside of like Paris Johnson, the rest of them are all like there's about one guy a year that isn't a project, and the rest of them, once they get into the building, they've got deficiencies you need to fix. Unless it's like a Paris, which is, again, there's about 3 or 4 of those a year, maybe in the entire country. And if you get one of them, you're really lucky. But in general, you're getting a bunch of big guys that have something wrong with them, or short arms or whatever, and you got to iron out the deficiencies. But what are your thoughts on Aaron? Because I really like his tape.
Well, I remember when we took a little short arm tackle out of Massillon Perry and turned him into an All-American. You had those little stumpy little arms there, Kirk. It's amazing that you could even put those little the flippers that you had out there. How were you so
When
good with those short little arms?
they called me the Penguin. They called me T-Rex out there. The Penguins out there at right tackle getting it in. You know what's and I've said this to David Patterson the other day, and I love Dave. I talk to him all the time. But it's like, in 2003, mind you, at the combine I was 6'4" and 3/8. So that crushed me because I always thought I was 6'6" or 6'5" or whatever, and I was 6'4" and 3/8, which just destroyed my confidence forever because I always thought I was 6'6". I was the tallest guy on the entire 2003 team. Now, I would have been like probably 10th, because we've got, our, the kid from Minnesota is big. Ethan Onion was big. Like we have our rosters is so much better from a physicality standpoint than it used to be. Because we've added so much height and length and speed and everything else. But yeah, I had to make it. I had to make it work, man. I didn't have. That was the thing, man. I never had like great measurables other than the stuff that I could control, like my speed and my strength and stuff. I couldn't make myself taller, make my arms longer, but you figure out a way to get it done. That's what you got to do sometimes when you're not born 6'7", which is why I like taking 6'7" tackles, because he doesn't have to worry about that issue. That's a great point you make. Any other thoughts on that?
Well, no, I just look, I love big tackles like this. Offensive line I've always viewed as a development position. Um, I just, yeah, I think it's just so hard to project, other than the phenoms, and even on the phenoms you miss. We've talked, endlessly about the number of can't miss 5-star offensive linemen that went on to do nothing at the collegiate level. So, I have no trouble with taking development guys. I have no trouble taking guys that have gotten an endorsement from Charles Bentley. I have no trouble taking guys that have got Texas offers. I have no trouble taking guys whose father played in the NFL, and people are saying, "Well, that doesn't make any difference." But man, it's bloodlines. It's blood. It's like horses. Horses have bloodlines, and I think with kids, you know, kids whose father, the Kachuk brothers, doesn't mean you're going to be great. Not every Gretzky was a great Gretzky, but I'll take my chances with a 6'7" offensive lineman that LaCharles thinks really highly of, that's got a Texas offer, whose dad played in the NFL. I think that's a winning combination right there. And I think for Ohio State, like, they really knocked it out of the park with this. Bone's been doing a great job. I think, frankly, a lot of what's going to come down to in some of these positions is going to be a numbers and timing game. Does the numbers, reach out on the tight end room, and does the timing work out on the offensive line room? Because if you're do you take Ojo and Thomas in this class? Does are there other people that you're looking at? How does it work that way? So I think for Ohio State, they want to go first come, first serve, but like a kid like Felix Ojo, you might wait for. So I don't envy them the delicate dance that they have of kind of making all these things work and line up on their own timeline. But they did really well. They did really well there. And Aaron Thomas would be a guy that when we get him, because I really believe we're getting him. When we get him, I'm excited about every commitment. I'm going to be really excited about that one because I just think he's got a lot of the attributes that you look for a kid that's going to really do well at the college level.
Yeah, and I think that the NFL bloodlines thing's a great point, but I believe when you talk about it's not just the bloodlines, it's also that when your dad has been there and he's seen it and he knows how pros act and and how to do things the right way. It reminds me a lot of Caleb Downs, where Caleb was a guy that he comes in and a tremendous player, but I've talked about his dad a lot on it because his dad was a great player in the league. Gary Downs played 10 plus years in the league, was a lot around Hall of Famers, great players, but he was a guy that was a grinder, a guy that did things the right way, a guy that put in a lot of work and a lot of time. And I think that once you've been in the league, and I'm not saying that you have to be in the league to be able to teach a kid how to work hard, but you can show them like what it takes to have a work ethic and what it takes to, if you really want to do this, man, it ain't for the faint of heart. Like, I mean, I'm just being real. Like, I mean, the NFL is about, I mean, I'm sure there's tougher jobs. I'm not acting like, ice fishermen or coal miners isn't harder than playing in the league, but it's a very hyper competitive job. It's very tough. It's very stressful. It's very demanding. And so that's why, the best in the world get to do it. And the rest of the people that try to do it, they usually get cut or they don't even make it. So I just know that, I like a dad that, cause like, with my kid's young, he's 7. So he's supposed to playing, touch football or whatever, flag football. So it's not like it's the league, but when it comes time to go, like I'll have an idea of how the kid needs to act and what he needs to do. And I'll be able to teach him a lot of stuff that I wish I would have known, frankly, stuff that I learned on the other side of playing, maybe through coaching. Cause that was one of the best things ever is the fact that I played and then I coached, cause you learn way more about football as a coach because you really have to study it. And you study as a player, but it's a different level when you're a coach and you have to study all the organizational stuff and you get around different coaches and strength coaches and you're just talking football all day. It's a different level. So, but again, I like this kid a lot. I think that he adds a lot. And you throw in Sam Greer, Max Riley. I mean, this is going to be a tremendous offensive line class. And you can take, 5, 6, 7 if you want to get crazy and wait for Felix Ojo. Because, with them potentially going to 90 scholarships and, I don't know if they're sold on everybody in the O-line room. I mean, I've heard rumblings, and that's how it's going to be from here on out. Because the O-line room is the biggest room in the building, and there's always going to be some guys where it gets to be year 2, year 3 where it's go time. I mean, so again, they're not shy about bringing in more bodies, and like I say, O-line recruiting, it's a lot like panhandling. With the 49ers back in the day, they're dipping that thing in the river and shaking it, looking for nuggets of gold. That's kind of what it's like trying to find offensive linemen because, and again, I'm just going to go off rip right here and just talk about like how terrified I would be to give a 5-star offensive tackle a humongous bag of money if he was a heavyweight guy, like a guy like Felix Ojo. I'd be fine because he's going to gain weight the right way. But like some of these guys, man, it's like you give them too much money, they're going to be eating their way out of a job. And I've seen that with some of these guys that we were coming after, and they get to South Beach or whatever, and they just never, the light never comes on. Because I think some of these guys, they're just fat and happy once they show up. And, I want these guys to be hungry and ready to go. And that's why I like taking Austin Seyerveld, and I like taking Carson Hinsman and Tegra and some of these guys that are young and hungry. I mean, like Austin Seyerveld was a guy that nobody was super excited about, and he's going to be a leader. I mean, he's going to maybe be the leader of the offensive line this year. I mean, he's a guy that they're counting on. He was an Iron Buckeye, and he wasn't a 5-star kid from Texas, but he'll get the job done. Nevada, trivia question for you since we're talking about a 5-star offensive tackle from Texas. Who was the last offensive line coach at Ohio State to land a 5-star offensive tackle from the great state of Texas?
Stud?
Greg Sudoir landed Donovan Jackson, who was listed as a
Yes.
tackle from the great state
There
of
you go.
Texas.
Yeah,
So
and
I don't
Stud
know.
now
That's
that now that now
the head coach at
now the coach
IMG,
at
baby.
head coach at IMG. Stud has never left us, man. He might have like been out of our orbit, but he's always around. Stud's always watching. Like I tell my kids that. My kids are like, like some people talk about like Santa, like he knows when you've been sleeping. I tell him Stud. Stud knows when you've been sleeping. He knows when you're awake, and he knows when you've been good or bad.
Yeah, Sud's
Or be
like
good
when
for good.
Yoda, what like when Yoda dies in like I don't know if he dies in Empire Strikes Back or if he dies in Return of the Jedi, but like when Yoda dies and he like disappears from Dagobah, and then all
Yeah,
of a sudden
yeah.
Luke's flying the X-wing, and all of a sudden Yoda pops up and he's like, "Recruit 5-star tackles,"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Give them the bag, Luke. Give them the
give
bag.
it, give them the bag. Oh my gosh, I got a super chat. We'll dig into this and all right,
Well, hold
Nevada,
on
I got
before
a
we get to,
Michigan. Nope.
before we
All
get
right.
to before we get to the super chat, because you said that you played the most dangerous game in the world, the thing. I was wondering how would you have done as an ice road trucker or like on the crab boats with those little short little arms? Would you have been able to do that? Would you have been able to drive the ice road, or would you be able to like handle those crab pots, those little arms when you're out there? Do you get seasick?
No, I don't get seasick. I mean,
Really?
I'd
You don't
probably,
get
I'd
seasick?
probably, I'd probably be cold if I had to live on some oil rig in the North Sea for 6 months or whatever. But yeah, that's why those
Oh.
guys make like 50 grand a month because they're sitting on the middle of an ice barracks for 6 months with all dudes. Like I don't know if I could do that. I think that'd be harder than that. That'd be harder than the cold or the crabs. It'd just be like it's a bunch of dudes. It's like being back in county. It's like being back in county jail again. Like I've done that. I don't do that one again. I'm good. It's like, I mean, like I got my limits, man. It's like get me out of
Kirk
here.
Barton playing the world's most dangerous game out there on the ice road truckers with Kirk Barton out there.
Ice road football player. Yeah, football. Hey, man. I told you that's why they
It's
don't.
tough.
That's why they don't have rec league football. They have golf and
No,
soccer
no.
and basketball and everything else. Beer
Old man
league
football.
hockey. You don't see beer league football leagues, man. I'm telling you. Of course, there are
Uh,
some on TikTok where guys are playing like 37U, and it's like the greatest content of all time because guys have on like the Ray Lewis like face mask and like the purple visor and the shield, and it's just like it's amazing. It's like they're a Madden creative character out in the middle of the field. All
you,
right,
you should
Nevada.
you should go out there with like the single bar, like the Roman
Oh my
Gabriel
god.
face mask or something like that. And go out there and just dominate those old guys. You aged out of the U37 groups
I
and you can't
know.
play that anymore.
I know. I'd
Yeah.
be playing double age up. I'd be playing the six playing the be playing the 45-year-olds double age up. You know, be perfect. All
The
right.
60 you guys. Okay,
That'd be me.
go.
60
Don't let me
60
don't.
precinct double age up Nevada. It's the ADU. Uh
Oh
any
God.
chance the precinct, thanks for the 5, brother. Any chance the NCAA dusts off an old TV ban and hands that to scum? I'm gonna let you go first about it because I already know what the answer is on this.
Yeah, I have not heard. Now let's be clear, okay? Nobody knows. This is like they're going to a trial, and they're going to go to a trial, and there's going to be a jury, and the jury's going to be made up of NCAA people that they've picked for out of this pool of people to do it. So nobody knows what the outcome's going to be, because it's unknowable because the jury hasn't heard all the evidence and ruled. So anything we say is informed speculation on this based upon what the settlement parameters were talked about in order for Michigan to settle this. Because believe me, Michigan wanted to settle this. Nobody wants to go to a full committee of infractions hearing. Nobody. So the only reason you do that is because what was being asked from you in settlement is just too harsh for you to accept. Um, Having said that, I have not heard television ban as being one of the remedies. The remedies that I've heard, the big remedies that I've heard are postseason bans and vacation of wins. That's kind of the going backwards and going forward types of penalties. obviously everything. I mean, the penalty list when this final thing comes out for Michigan will take up pages of show causes and fines and recruiting restrictions. I mean, it's going to be 60 items when it comes to it. But the two biggies would be vacation of wins, postseason bans. I have not even heard anybody talk about television bans. I'm not sure they could do that with the way that the television contracts are, currently configured. Um, again, we're talking about regular season, but the postseason stuff would also be devastating for Michigan, and I fully expect them to receive that and more.
Yeah, I think the TV ban would be tough just because of the brand and the money. And I mean, when Fox signs up for Big Ten, they want Michigan, they want Ohio State, especially number one by far. Then they want Oregon, Michigan, USC. They're not signing up for Purdue. But it'd be interesting. I can't see him doing a TV ban. I mean, as draconian as that would be, and I would love that if you were like, hey, tune into your local Michigan satellite radio channel to listen to the game today. But that's probably too draconian, and I don't think that would work with Fox and CBS and the $1 billion TV deals. Like I don't think that the NCAA wants to do anything to upset the money machine that is those. So, all right. All right, Nevada. Luke, nicely, thanks for the deuce. How many booms do you think from this weekend? I think one for sure. Nevada, you in agreement?
Well, it's a matter of timing, what I'm saying? And I always say
Yeah.
timing these things is always dicey. I mean, how many kids will we get out of this weekend? I mean, four, maybe five. But how will the booms be there? I think that for now again, I say this, and somebody completely off the list could commit in 30 minutes, and that's why I hate timing these things. But I'd say Aaron Thomas, Sutter, Waffle. That'd be my likelihood of booms. But I think they'll end up with four or five kids out of the 11 or 12 that came in this weekend. I think Ohio State did that well.
Yeah, I think that you're right. And I think that, I don't, as much as I care about kids committing, like I don't until they actually sign. And even after they sign, it doesn't really matter because, again, we missed out on Caleb Downs the first turn, and then a year later he's a Buckeye. And Julian Sain didn't sign with us out of high school, and then like a month after he gets Alabama, he's a Buckeye. So some of these guys are going to go places, and they're going to go, like I mean, Xavier Griffin is a big guy who's rising, and he's maybe the best linebacker in the country. And people are pegging him to Alabama. And for the life of me, man, I think that Alabama's trajectory is downhill, and I think it's going to be coming fast because a team that lost to Vanderbilt last year, which is crazy, and didn't even make the expanded playoff. I just don't know how much you're going to be excited to go play defense there because they're not what they used to be. But they'll do what they can do, and kids might commit there early. But I always think that kids commit places, and then all of a sudden, when the wheels fall off the wagon, like I mean, Alabama's gonna have a new quarterback this year. Frankly, I don't think they're gonna be great, and so guys stay live all the way through the season. It's honestly, it reminds me a lot of Florida State. Like Florida State was like neck and neck for Jeremiah Smith right down to signing day until before he signed the deal. And I mean, can you imagine if JJ would have gone to Florida State and they're losing to literally everybody that they play against last year? Boston College, who stunk, and I mean they're just dreadful. And so, I at this point I feel bad for kids that don't pick Ohio State, but James is laying it on him, man. I mean, James isn't. We got Tyler Atkinson coming too, man. Our linebacker room is about to be stacked. We're going to see Johnson. We got CJ Sana, who crushed. I think it was the district record for discus, which it was like a 199, that's a huge throw, especially for a high school kid. But yeah, I love the trajectory coming out of this weekend. You've got camps coming up this week. It's going to be a crazy week. I'm super excited about it. Nevada, again, with camps coming, like how big is this June going to be for Ohio State?
Oh, I mean, you got to remember we start uh, fall camp, and what, July 31st is the first practice or whatever it is. So like we're 8 weeks away from this beginning of the 2025 season from that standpoint. And yeah, June is packed with three monster weekends of recruits. We've got camps. So the off season's almost over, and fall camp is almost upon us. So yeah, it's uh it's going to be quick, and I think the commitments are going to start flying in fast and furious as well. So a lot going to be going on here over the next 2 months.
Yeah, it's crazy because camp kicks off July 31st and we're into June, which just seems like it's just flying by, and it's absolutely nuts. What else? What else do these guys need to get done? Like, what do you want to hear? Because they're starting summer workouts. I mean, those are full tilt. The kids, the mid years are officially enrolled now. So we added some of the kids like Turbo Rogers and some of these guys that were mid years. Also, Bo Atkinson is officially enrolled now. What do you want to hear over the next couple of weeks from these kids as they start hitting the weight room and they get acclimated into being part of Ohio State's football team?
Well, you just want to hear that they're players. I mean, we heard it last year with some of the transfers. I mean, Bo Atkinson's got. I mean, in my opinion, yeah, heavy is the head that wears the crown. I mean, he's got to be a key for our defensive line this year, and in order for us to kind of get out of the gate fast, I think he's going to have to be really good. So, what do I want to hear? I want to hear that some of these guys have come in, made an immediate impact, an impression on the other players, because the players know who the players are. Last year when you were talking to the guys and they're like, "Hey, Quinshon Judkins, what a dog, just a dog." Will Howard, freaking stud. So when we were hearing stuff, Will Howard stinks. He won't be the starting quarterback. And we're like, no, no, that's wrong. We're not, we're not buying that at all. Um, so that's what I want to. I want to hear it, with all the guys, but especially with Bo, because I think Bo's, we've I'm not as worried about the depth on the defensive line, because I don't think anybody's ever talked about who was the backup defensive lineman on the 2014 Ohio State Buckeyes national championship. I mean, nobody talks about that. I mean, depth's going to take care of itself, but the starters, I think we need a little bit more, and I think Bo's got that little bit more. He's got that, that pass rushing edge, that ability to bend and get to those quarterbacks, and I'd really like to see, Bo Atkinson. I'd like to hear his name coming up from the offensive linemen, coming up from the other guys in the room saying, wow, this Bo Atkinson guy is really something. He's really a player, really a great kid, really a guy that's going to step into a team leadership position. That would, to me, that would be huge, and a really good sign for the 2025 Buckeyes.
Yeah, I think that's it's huge. And again, it's tough because Bo's got. I'm sure he's been learning the playbook since he committed here. I mean, it's not hard to get on Zoom meetings with the coaches, but now he's going to be in the building officially and working out. And I'm sure he was doing unofficial stuff. I'm sure he's been up here a lot. But now it's real, and now you're working out with the team officially, which I'm not sure if there's any. I don't know in transfer portal land if you're legally allowed to work out in the Woody. I don't think you are until you're actually enrolled. But again, things get done sometimes, and I think that there's also a lot of gyms locally that they could be working out with some of the guys. But you want to get in with your teammates and acclimate and do summer training and conditioning, and hopefully these guys showed up in shape, because that's what I'd always tell these guys. I'm like, look, you got to train, and it's not just like screw around train. Like, you got to go out and run in the heat, get ready to go, because Mickey, he puts the screws to these guys in the summer, man, especially when they're outside doing their conditioning runs, man. They are not fun. So there's always some guys that decide to show up out of shape, and it's always not very pleasant when they get acclimated into Ohio State, especially the volume of running that we do. Because it sucks. Like, summer conditioning is not a joke. And our guys have been getting ready to turn up. So I'm excited to see some of these guys. Big summer, honestly, it's a big summer for a lot of these guys. With the way the portal is now, you have no safety net. You have to go show that you're in shape, you can play, you're serious, and you're growing as a prospect. And for guys that are in year 2, year 3, if you haven't made a dent in the 2 deep yet, or haven't been in contention to start, like, it's go time. I mean, they do not wait. And again, it's good. I mean, for Ohio State, our product will never be better than it is right now, because you can backfill. Again, adding a couple extra offensive linemen that were good players from Ohio that I'm sure we got on the cheap from an NIL perspective was genius. And we're going to do that every year now, because again, there's always going to be a couple of fringe offensive linemen like Justin Terry, who we took from West Virginia, who was a Pickerington kid, who we don't offer, and they go to like a West Virginia or a Pittsburgh or a Michigan State. And then we come back a year later and say, hey, our bad. We should have taken you. We didn't. We'd love to have you come in and compete and try to start. And it's a great way to get some of these Ohio kids back that we're probably on the fence about or slow played or whatever, and they went elsewhere. And you don't have to pay them a lot because a lot of the Ohio kids, they'll take a discount to come here, and it's a significant upgrade in your lifestyle to go from West Virginia to Ohio State and compete here. Because again, these guys all want to know if they can play in the show and play in the big show, which is playing Ohio State in the biggest games of the year. So I'm excited to see a lot of these young guys that are here now, like Justin Terry's here now. What kind of shape's he in? All these guys, because again, they come here to put their best foot forward. And again, the way that we can backfill this roster now, and also not get rid of, but move along kids that maybe might not be that were misses. It makes this thing almost comical at this point, because you could throw back your bad cards in your poker hand infinitely and keep until you get to that royal flush, which is what our roster looks like right now. So, all right, Nevada, we can wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts as we head off into the night?
Well, final thoughts. Final question. Did you throw the discus or the shot put in high school? Were you a track guy?
I did track my 8th grade year and my freshman year because somebody told me that I should go out for track. Mr. Everhart, who was my coach at Perry, he told me I should come out for it, and he was my 8th grade football coach, and I was like, okay. And so I threw the shot and I threw the disc, and it just, to me, it was, I don't want to say it was a waste of time, but for me, it felt like a waste of time because you're there practicing after school, and it's like throw the shot put, walk and pick it up, throw the shot put, walk. It's just like, I'd rather go lift and run and do football, because we had football conditioning after school every day. If you weren't at that, you could go to football conditioning after school. And I'm going to get way, I'd see our guys, running and doing drills after school. And I'm like, I would get way more out of that than I would throwing a shot put or a discus. And I was decent at it. Like I'd win like these little middle school meets and stuff, but I was just like, it felt like a waste of time. And I wanted to be efficient with my time. And the way our training was at Perry when I was there, it was incredible. So like when you're missing those workouts, like they're like real workouts, and you want to grow and develop. And I felt like this is just stupid. It's like there's certain things that you can do to really develop yourself. And I didn't feel like shot and disc was great for developing any type of football ability. And I could be wrong. And again, like Jonathan Ogden's maybe the best tackle in history, and he was like a Olympic level shot putter. But he was also 6'9" and 350 pounds. So he had incredible power and explosion when he threw that thing. But yeah, I did for a little bit, but it just wasn't for me because I thought I could get more out of training. It's the same thing, same reason I quit basketball after my sophomore year. I didn't go out for basketball my junior year because I was like, I'm missing football workouts. And the football workouts are 10 million times better than playing basketball, in my opinion. Does that answer it?
It does. I was just curious because I figured you had that last year, your spring quarter of your senior year. Football's done. You've got your commitment to Ohio State. I thought maybe you're gonna have to see the girls on the track team and
Hell,
throw the
I
discus.
hell no. I mean, I trained and I relaxed and enjoyed myself. I enjoyed my spring quarter because it was funny with Tress because it's so weird how old fashioned Tress was. And again, times have changed dramatically, and everyone it's much easier with online classes to do the mid-year stuff. But I asked him about mid-year enrollment. I was like, should I enroll early? And he said, no, you'll be here soon enough. And I was like, that's all I needed to hear. Because I wasn't like, again, you gotta remember the team I was walking into was the defending national champions that had 20 returning starters. So there was no way in hell I was going to beat out Shane Olivier at tackle. There's just no way. So I was like, well, I could show up in January and I'm still going to redshirt. I'm not going to play. So I could just bullet my last 6 months as a real kid. And then the other thing is I couldn't play in the All-Star games, and back then the big difference between college football now and back then is like, we used to have these great All-Star games, like the Ohio North-South game. It still exists, but it's nowhere near what it used to be from a talent perspective because of the early enrollees. The early enrollees, they all leave in January for the most part, most of the best kids. and so they don't get to play them anymore. And then we would play in the Big 33. So the old kind of time honored training camp for Ohio State back in the day was that all of the good players would play in the North-South game, and then they'd all play in the Big 33. The North-South game was the best kids of Northern Ohio versus Southern Ohio. They used to play. We played at Crew Stadium, old Crew Stadium. It was awesome. It was a great week, and we had 2-a-day practices every day. So it was. I mean, we were, and you're going against the best players that you've gone against, because you're going against like basically 2 all-star teams from Ohio, and we really, really good players. And then the next year, or the next in July, it was funny. We would all meet at the Woody Hayes, and we would all load up the bus, and we went to Hershey, Pennsylvania, and we played in the Big 33. And the Big 33 was like the best players in Ohio that weren't enrolled. Or, we didn't have Dante Whitner, we didn't have Sheon Cotton. We actually didn't have a lot of guys that should have been on that team. Would have made it. Brady Quinn didn't play in it because he went to Notre Dame early. But we had a lot of guys that were really good, and we smashed Pennsylvania. But we had basically 2 all-star games that were kind of like 2 like senior bowls, like 2 training camps where you had 2-a-day practices. And I mean, those were bloodbaths of practices, but they were good because they got you ready for training camp, and you made some great friends. And I loved playing those all-star games because it was a nice way to get ready to go to a place like Ohio State, because you're blocking every day in practice. I'm blocking Ray Edwards, who was I don't know if he's a second or third round pick, but Ray Edwards played 7-8 years in the league and got a huge second contract, played for the Vikings. Crable was a defensive end, went to Michigan, obviously. Brandon Maupin, David Patterson. It was like a lot of my teammates I was going to see at Ohio State that were Ohio State and Michigan and Purdue level guys. They were all on my team, and that's who I was blocking. You play a 5-2 defense, and so you've got Crable at defensive end on one side, and you get Ray Edwards at defensive end on the other side. And it was just like, this is going to be a blast, because they're both 6'6" guys that are angular and fast, and it was good. And then I knew that we were going to smash Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania, they had some good players. They had Paul Postlesny, who you guys all remember from Penn State, a couple other dudes. But like their offensive line, it was like Eastern Michigan, Kent State. I mean, and then I looked at our defensive line, and it was like David Patterson, Ohio State. It was Reggie Smith, Ohio State. It was Crable, Michigan. It was Ray Edwards, Purdue. And Ray should have been a Buckeye. He was stupid for going to Purdue. But I was just like, we're just going to overwhelm them. And we did. We beat them like 38-7. But yeah, I didn't want to enroll early. I honestly feel bad for the kids now, because I feel like there's such a rush to get there. And if you don't get there in January, then you're behind. And again, that's great. But you miss out on your senior year, but it is a business now, and it's a business decision. So, for a kid like Jeremiah Smith to show up in January and be ready to be the best player in college football by, September, it takes those extra 6 months. So it's a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. But he also is rare. I mean, there's a lot of kids that enroll in January and then they don't play at all their whole season. So it's like, they get here early and then they just watch and redshirt, and it's like, you could have showed up in June and did that, but this is kind of the way of the world now. All right, Nevada, any final thoughts?
Well, no, just I mean, I can't believe we're into June already. This is it seems like the off season. We talked about how quick the off season is. Now it's gotten quick on me. Now being in June, realizing that we're practicing in July, it's gonna fly by. Look for some commitments coming out of this class, and we'll be tracking them. And if you like this podcast, come join us at BuckeyeScoop.com. Great way to kind of accompany this podcast, and it's where we hang out the other 23 hours a day. So appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Yeah, great community. And again, Felix Ojo, the #1 player in the country, is going to be on Buckeye Boys tomorrow. But leading into our show, 6 o'clock. So get here an hour early. Check him out with Devin and Funky. It'll be fantastic, as always. Mello, again, I'm not sure who all is going to be on there, but if they're all on there, great. It'll be fantastic. And I love the direction of these guys. And our recruiting guys are monsters, and they're really doing a great job getting you all the inside information, because the pablum gets old. So to get the real stuff, it's really fun, and it's on BuckeyeScoop.com. So with that being said, as always, if you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate you guys supporting the channel, helping us grow this thing. It's been incredible. And it's been such a fun ride. If you guys want to help us out in a major way, please subscribe to Apple Podcasts. Again, I say that every day. It's an easy thing to do. You can take your phone out in 2 seconds and do it. And it's an easy way to really help us out in a major way. So with that being said, hope you guys had a great weekend. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Go Bucks.